Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about using percentage. This is an extension of what we have been doing with finding the percent of a number. We have found the percent of a number using proportions. We found the percent of a number also using algebra and equations. We're going to do a slight review, and then once we're done with the review, we're going to show how this actually helps us in the real world. What do we do with this information? I think in math it's really important to know why something matters as we learn it, because it really makes it more important for us to learn it. So this is a type of math that I use on a regular basis, and I think you will as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of review. We need to remember that percent is basically a ratio with 100 as the denominator or whole. An example of this would be 25% would be equivalent to 25 over 100, or out of 100. 25 pieces out of 100. We have done this before, so we're going to do just a little bit of review. Finding percent of a number. Finding percent of a number can be done in three different ways. The first way is through using a proportion. I spelled that wrong. In using a proportion, that's a P-R-O, we would remember that it would be a ratio. So you would have two ratios. On this side, you would have the part, and the whole is equivalent to the percentage that's given over 100, remembering that this is the percent sign. That's the side with the percent on it. So let's do an example. If I was to try to find 30% of 200, remember that that of is a clue word that tells us that that's the full amount. A part of 200. We don't know what that part is, though. We do know the percentage that we're looking at, which is 30, and we know it's going to be out of 100. Now, I could solve this in a couple different ways. I could solve it using cross product and do 200 times 30 is equivalent to 100 times n, and then solve for n. But in looking at this, there's a simpler way. There's a proportional relationship, and that proportional relationship relates to how the 200 relates to the 100. Hey, Levi, what do I do to 100 to get to 200? Or what do I do to 200 to get to 100?
Multiply 100 by 2.
I multiply 100 by 2. So, basically showing that 100 times 2 is 200, which means whatever works at the bottom is going to have to work at the top, right? So if that's the case, if 100 times 2 equals 200, then 30, which would be on the top, times 2 would be what, class? 60. So in this case, n would be 60. Or 30% of 200 is 60. Now, let's check to see if that makes sense. We know that 10% of 200 would be 200 divided by 10. 200 divided by 10 is 20. We have 3 of those 10%. So we would have 20, 40, 60. So that would make it accurate. That makes sense. It's a good answer. The second way we can solve it is through creating an equation with a fraction. Equation using fractions. So I'm going to use our same problem that we just did. And I've got, we're doing 30% of 200. So let's look at our clue words. When we're doing algebraic equations using percentage, what does of refer to, class? Multiply, right? So you're going to have a multiplication problem. How do I write 200 as a fraction? Christian.
You could write 200 as a fraction putting the 200 on the bottom?
Nope, not on the bottom. How do I write any whole number as a fraction? Riley?
You put 200 on the top and then put 1 on the bottom.
Now does it remember? Yeah. I knew you knew it. I just think you were saying it wrong. So 200 over 1. Good job, Riley. Now, can somebody convert for me 30% to a fraction? Can somebody convert 30% to a fraction? Levi. 30 over 100. Good. Because remember, any percentage is over 100. All right, so now we can actually we can pull out the products on the cross, and we can simplify on this one. Can I divide a number into 100 and 200, and it'll come out of each of those evenly? What number can I pull out? Elizabeth?
You can pull out,
What factor will go into 100 and 200?
2.
2 would, but I think there's something much bigger. It's a good guess, though. Nicole?
50.
We have one that's even bigger than that. Jacqueline? 100. That's our biggest one, right? So what's 100 divided by 100? 1. What's 200 divided by 100? 2. Okay, so now that we've simplified prior to multiplying, we're just going to multiply straight across. 30 times 2 is what, class?
60.
1 times 1?
1.
Simplify that out, it equals 60. Got the same answer. That's the second method. The third method is very similar to that, but it is, instead of using fractions, it's an equation with decimals. So we're going to start off the same way we just did. We're going to rewrite the problem, translating our words into algebraic or mathematical symbols, and converting, but this time instead of converting to a fraction, we're going to convert to a decimal. So same problem, 30% of 200. By this point, we know the answer very well. What does that of mean again, class?
Multiplication.
Good. We've got a 200. We don't have to do anything to it. It's already in the right form, so we're just going to leave it there. Can somebody convert 30% to a decimal for me? Nicole? 0.3. You moved the percentage, and you made it a decimal, and you moved it twice to the left, I'm guessing. And you just dropped that extra 0 off because it's not necessary. So she got this, but she said, oh, I don't need that. So she's got 200 times 0.3 or 3/10. All right, let's multiply that out. 0, 0, 6. You've got 1 decimal place out, 1 decimal place in, and you end up with 60. The same answer. Solving percent of a number 3 different ways. So hopefully that was review for you. So now let's put it into practice. So our review, back up here where we have review, I'm going to write this as section A. And now we're going to go to section B. Section B is going to be how we're going to apply it. We're going to do finding a discount. So when you go to stores, so I just read that Michael's in town is going to close. And typically, I know, it's kind of sad, right? Typically when stores go out of business, they'll bring in companies, the companies will make everything liquidated out, and they'll say everything 75% off, everything 35% off. And you can get some amazing deals. But you have to be able to solve some math problems in order to know. Because if you go into a store and you have $10, and it's something that's $10 says, or something that's $20 says it's 75% off, you need to make sure, can I afford it with my $10 bill? So how do we do that? We use a solving proportion problem. Okay? A discount, by the way, is the amount of money off a price. Meaning, if we were to figure out 75% of $10, it would be the amount that we subtract from the $10. So it looks like this. You go into a store and you see 25% off all purchases. And you're like, score. That's a great deal. Let's say you're in the store and 25% off all purchases, and you're at Michael's, they're liquidating everything, and you're like, you see a really amazing art set. And you're like, I really want to buy this art set. It's $15 retail. Retail is the pre-discounted cost, okay? Make a note of that because that's important. Retail is the pre-discounted price. Okay. So we want to know that art set's 25% off. What would my cost be? So you're going to start off with 25% off $15. Now, to do this, you have to find out what the discount price is and then subtract it from the retail or original cost. So we're going to do a 25% of $15 problem in order to first find out what the cost of the items or what the discount is going to be. So to solve that, I'm going to do this as a decimal one. Okay? What does of mean?
Multiplication.
Okay, we're going to drop our 15 down. Can somebody convert 25% to a decimal for me, please? Jacqueline? 0.25 or 25 hundredths? Good. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply that out. 15 times 25 hundredths. 5 times 5, class?
25.
5 times 1?
5.
Plus the 2?
7.
Placeholder. 2 times 5?
10.
Carry the 1. 2 times 1? Plus 1? Let's add it up. 375. We have 1, 2 decimal places. 1, 2. What did I get, guys?
$3.75.
$3.75. Awesome. That's what I'm going to pay out the door?
No.
No. What do I have to do with that number now? That's the discount. That's how much is going to be taken off the price. So what do I need to do, Christian?
You have to subtract that from the original value.
I have to subtract that from the original value. So I'm going to do $15, the original retail price, minus the discount. So the retail minus the discount. Okay? All right, so let's do that over here. $15 minus $3.75. I'm going to have to borrow. 10 minus 5, 5. 9 minus 7, 2. Just put my decimal. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1. I got $11.25. My cost is $11.25. You find the percentage of the discount, what that value is going to be. You subtract that number from the original cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You have to subtract it. All right, so let's do another one of these guys, okay? And we're going to go over to 79 to do this. This is the purple Converse shoes. I really want a pair of purple Converse shoes. The regular value, or the regular price, regular retail price of my shoes that I want is $45. But Shoe City, gotta love them, is doing a sale. And this sale for Martin Luther King weekend, which is this weekend, is 40% off all their shoes. All shoes, 40% off. Woot, woot. Now I can see, can I afford the shoes? So, my question is, what is the pre-tax cost of the purple Converse shoes? Is it worth me buying them right now? First thing, what is my discount that I'm looking at? It's 40% off of what? Christian?
The shoes.
The shoes. What's the cost of the shoes?
The cost was $45 regular retail.
So we would do the discount is 40% of $45, right? You following along, guys? Okay. All right. Let's convert this to an equation. Of means multiply. I'm going to drop my 45 down. 40% as a decimal is what? Isaac? 0.4 or 0.40, but we can cut off that 0 because it's not necessary. So I'm going to have 45 times 0.4. 4 times 5, guys? Carry the 2. 4 times 4 plus 2. I have 1 decimal in. I end up with $18 as my discount. What do I do now to figure out the price of my shoes? Nicole.
You subtract the retail by the discount.
So I'm going to do retail minus discount, which is $45 minus $18. Okay? Going to have to borrow. 15 minus 8 is 7. 3 minus 1 is 2. The cost of the shoes is $27. Pretty good deal. I'd buy them. Now, here's the thing, guys. When you actually go into the store, is that your final cost?
No.
What do we still have to do? Jacqueline, you just said it. Add tax. So your final cost in this scenario would be the retail price minus the discount plus the tax. We will be doing tax on the next day. Okay? Tomorrow we'll do, or on our next set of notes, we'll do tax. Because tax is something you're going to add to. But for right now, I want you guys to do one more problem, okay? Okay? On this one, I want you to do this on your own. Write it down. My bad, sorry. What is the discounted price of a pair of shoes? Let's do a pair of Vans that costs, let's go $65 retail. So I want you to figure out what is that cost of that shoe is going to be. Okay? You've got to first figure out the discount. Once you figure out the discount, you've got to subtract it from the retail. You got it? I want you to do that on your own. And tomorrow we'll deal with tax and the real world.